Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I've dressed for the theme of my video with my Save a Horse Ride a Cowboy t-shirt. So I think you can tell by the t-shirt where I'm going with this video. I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour into cowboy romances. So I would take you through where to start if you want to know where to get into them, my favourite ones, and what a cowboy romance is. So like the classic things we expect in a cowboy romance, the things I love about cowboy romances, and then maybe the things that I don't like as much. So let's start with what a cowboy romance is. So a cowboy romance is typically a romance book set in like Canada or America, or like the South of America, with like, it says it in the title, a cowboy and a romance. In most scenarios, the cowboy is like a ranch worker, so you can picture jeans, they call them Wranglers, that must be like the Canadian or America name of the jeans, so Wranglers, cowboy hat, rugged appearance, works all day on the farm or ranch. A lot of the time you've got, by cowboy, they tend to be bull riders. So you've got the cowboy and then you've got the romance trope. So insert cowboy into either enemy to lovers, friendship to lovers, second chance romance. So that is kind of like what makes up a cowboy romance. Small town, cowboy, insert romance trope. I'm just going to talk you through some of the cowboy romances that I've read. I'll start with the first cowboy romance series that I read. So it was Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. The whole series is called the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and it will be a 4-part series, but currently we only have books 1 to 3. I'm pretty sure the 4th book, Wild and Wrangled, is out in, I want to say April, but I could be wrong. Dusted. This was a really good start to cowboy romance for me. Elsie Silver is another, she's kind of the pioneer at the moment for cowboy romance. However, I went for Lila Sage first. I'll try not to give any spoilers, but just obviously I am speaking about the book, so take that as you will if you want to continue watching. So this was a bit of a slow burn romance, my second favourite romance trope, or on par with Enemy to Lovers. Slow burn romance. You've got Emmy, who is kind of the FMC for this, and then Luke, who's the MMC, and then as any good romance, you know, off limits romance goes, Luke is Emmy's brother's best friend. Need I say more? So you've already got that little enticement. She is a barrel rider, so she comes home because she is thinking about ending her like career as a barrel rider, and then she kind of has to figure out what she wants to do with her life now. And then Luke was a bad boy, trying to turn his life around. You can see where the plot's going. So yeah, this was such a good start to my cowboy romance journey. And then Swift and Saddled, I ate this one up. I preferred this to Done and Dusted because I liked the characters a little bit more. This one is Black Cat meets Golden Retriever. So Western is Golden Retriever in this. Ada is Black Cat. I've never really read that trope before, so I enjoyed reading that as a first time. I just love Wes. I just feel like you just want him to have a happy ending. So yeah, this is really good as well. Again, it's set in the same world. So Wes is another of Emmy's brothers. So book 1 follows Emmy and her love interest. Book 2 follows Wes and his love interest. And book 3, Lost and Lassoed, follows another of Emmy's brothers and then his love interest, which is Emmy's best friend. I will say I didn't hate this book. It wasn't my favourite, and I'll get on to why in a bit, but I love the cover of it. They're like the green, how juicy is that? So yeah, those are the 3 in this series. Cowboy romances tend to like follow characters within the same world, but obviously each book focuses on a different one. So getting on to why I didn't like Lost and Lassoed so much. So after reading the first 2 Lila Sage books, I then decided to see what all the fuss was about with Elsie Silver. So she is kind of one of the big names with cowboy romances at the moment. So her like most popular series is Chestnut Springs, which is where Heartless is from. So this is actually book 2 in the Chestnut Springs series. Book 1 is called Flawless and follows a bull rider who gets assigned like, not a nanny, but like his boss's daughter has to look after him, and then you can see where that's going to go. So they don't get on at first, and then the rest is history. So I actually read book 2 before I read book 1, and again they're brothers in it. So book 1 follows brother 1, book 2 follows brother 2. But this book changed everything. So I have always been of the belief that, you know, the single dad book trope was not for me at all. Outside of reading, that is just, I don't know if that was something I would enjoy. You know, when you're dating people, like, would I want to date someone with a child? Possibly not, because I still feel like a child myself sometimes. Like, that's just not where I am as a person. I like having no responsibilities. I like just having time for me. Call it selfish, but I'm still young. I just want to live my life first. So every time I saw that as a book trope, I was like, no, not gonna like it. I was being very close-minded, and then I met Cade Eaton. Pause so we can appreciate him. If you've read Heartless, you will get why I am so enamoured. He is just everything you'd want in a man. He is a cowboy for one, yes please. He's really nice, sensitive, hardworking, and then seeing his interactions with his son, and then through the main girl's eyes, like watching that, I was just like, I can get behind the single dad book trope. So essentially in this book, the main character from book one, her best friend comes and works as a nanny for Cade to look after his child whilst he has to work for the summer, working long hours, so he needs a babysitter. So you can imagine the babysitter, the nanny, lives in Cade's house with him to look after his child whilst he's like on the ranch doing all his like ranch duties. And then they don't get on at first, so it is kind of enemy to lovers. They have that like snarky banter, love-hate relationship, and then obviously I won't spoil it for you, but as the plot goes on you can imagine where it goes. But yeah, this book was just a 5 out of 5 for me. I literally ate it up. I read it in a day or two, that's how good it was for me. So I really liked the Cade Eaton nanny plot of this book, and I don't want to throw shade. Like, it's hard to write a story, like original content, especially with cowboy romances, probably is hard to find. Like, a lot of cowboy romances follow on the same tropes and things like that, but Lost and Lassoed was basically a rip-off of Heartless. Maybe if I'd read this one first I wouldn't have like bad things to say about it, but I just think, one, how do authors get away with basically copywriting content? Like, how did this go through the publication process, getting signed off when it's literally the exact same plot as Heartless? But like I said, it's not a bad book, it's just I'd already read the story in this book. So just something to think about. If you're reading this series first, you then might go into this one and think they're the same book, but this one was written first. This one's my favourite so far, but the journey's not over. I'm still on the journey myself. And then a cowboy romance, or I don't know if it's quite cowboy romance, but it's small town romance. It was called Root Bound. I just picked this up randomly at the works. I think it was like £3 or something, and I read this in a day. It was so unexpectedly nice. There was a bit of a plot twist at the end which I didn't see coming, but also thought was a little bit random. But there's a scene in this, and like, you know, I think every girl will get what I'm saying, like a guy in grey tracksuit bottoms with no socks on. Why is that such a thing? Like, why is that such a thing? But that's in here. This book basically follows the female character who gets a contract on a ranch, and the ranch just so happens to be her dad's ranch, but she's not in contact with the ranch, so she doesn't have a relationship with that side of the family. So then she goes back already having this kind of like negative attitude towards it, but then she meets one of the farm hands, ranch hands, whatever. He's called Henry. I didn't realise I'd fancy a Henry until I read this book. Then, you know, again, the rest is history. I don't want to give the plot away, but that was really good. And there was, like I say, a bit of a plot twist at the end. The author for this was quite cool. I like reading author bios. She had read loads of cowboy romances herself, and just romances, and she thought she'd give her hand at it. And you know what, Tara, you did a great job. So cowboy romances I've got on my Kindle are the Gold Rush Ranch series by Elsie Silver, which I could be wrong, but I think she wrote this series before Chestnut Springs, but Chestnut Springs is the one that made her famous, like popular. I've read the first one, which was Enemy to Lovers, so that was a good one. Again, I ate it up. They're really easy to get through, like, it's nothing groundbreaking. Similar themes, tropes, you know, plots in all of them, but that was good too. And actually, I forgot about this one. It's on my shelf somewhere. Red Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I'd say that's more small town than cowboy romance, but at this point I just didn't. Maybe I'd read too many cowboy romances, but it just did nothing for me. Like, I didn't enjoy it. I just wanted more of the cowboy vibes for that one, but that one follows a billionaire. Yeah, maybe I just felt like it was too done at that point, like I'd read too many. But I'll also say the whole like spicy element to them, or like smut. I don't think any of the ones that I've read are that spicy, except for one which I'll come on to. All the ones that I've mentioned today, like they do have open door bedroom scenes, but like they're not too long. I think Lost and Lassoed had the longest one. I can remember when I was reading it, I was just like, okay, I'm bored now, like we get it. But if you want a bit of a spicy romance but nothing too like X-rated, these 5 books are a good place to start. I think Heartless might be a little bit spicier as well, but yeah, I guess it depends on your taste. Like personally, I prefer a slow burn romance. I'd much rather wait until the end of a book to get the first kiss than have a 10-page description on what's happening inside of the bedroom. Like once you kind of get into it, you know where it's going. I don't need to keep reading it. I much prefer the plot, but each to their own. You know, sometimes it's enjoyable, but not when it's like half the book. But yeah, so I would say these are pretty tame in terms of the spice. And then I have read quite a spicy cowboy romance. I think she's self-published. It's the first book in the Crimson Ridge series. It's called Chasing the Wild. I think this is what made me realise maybe really spicy romance books aren't for me. The premise of the book is that a girl gets snowed into a cabin with her ex-boyfriend's dad. Maybe that's already giving you alarm bells, like book. But you know, I was kind of intrigued. I was like, this is kind of that like trashy, forbidden romance that I thought I'd be hooked on, and I think I gave it a 3, but I just, yeah, it was too much for me. But if you really like if you want a really spicy cowboy romance, then I would say read Chasing the Wild, because it will be right up your street. But for me, it almost felt like I'd hit rock bottom at that point. So I have since had a break from cowboy romances, but it wasn't bad. I just don't think the intensely spicy books are for me. So if you give it a go, let me know what you think. Like the writing was fine, I just the spice level wasn't. But to finish my cowboy romance video, I just thought I would use this as an opportunity to talk about my own cowboy romance. So last year, after enjoying reading the cowboy romances so much, I was like, let's try my own hand at writing a cowboy romance. So it was a bit of a passion project. It was whilst I was finishing off the final bits for Thus With a Kiss, the book I published last year, and I wrote a third of it, and I'm going to keep writing it. So my cowboy romance is kind of a second chance romance. It's a working title, so I haven't figured it out yet. If you've ever listened to Bailey Zimmerman, he has a song called Chase Her, and the second verse basically sums up what I am writing my cowboy romance about. So yeah, I hope you found this video informative, and now you know where to start with your cowboy romances. Comment below what your favourite cowboy romance is. Have I missed any amazing ones off that I haven't read myself? I'm always looking for a new cowboy romance to read. And yeah, I hope I took you on a journey to the Wild West, and I'll see you in the next video.